All right, so to pull comps, what we're going to do is we're going to go to both the Georgia MLS and the FMLS for Douglas and Carroll County. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the power tools like we normally would. We're going to pull up the county. So this one's already cool. This one's already saved. So let's do this one, William Dexter. So, okay, William Dexter and Sandra. All right, so you got the county records up. You want to make sure that they actually owe quite a bit in the loan. That's why they're trying to list it so high. Okay. All right, so when you pull the comps then, what you're going to do is go to comps. You're going to do it like you normally do. It'll automatically just pull out the ones that are generic. So you're going to change this template to kind of fit what you want to do for it. So we'll start with 1 mile. Do most recent sale, do distance, because you want to know the closest ones that have sold to you. And then just do 20%, 20%, see what pops up. So now we'll update it. The reason we use the Georgia MLS is this is a lot easier to trim out the ones that aren't comparable. So like this one's got a finished basement. This one's also less than an acre, is built in 77, and you have this subdivision. So you've got really only 1, 2, 3, 4 comps in the subdivision, even though we looked them up previously and there's like 10. So the Georgia MLS is a little skewed, which is fine, but we just want to weed out. So like what I'll do then is I'll go through here and say, okay, the condition of this home according to the tax records is average. This one's fair, which is even worse than average, but there's some of them that like one's good, even though this one's sold for $32 a square foot. So this is probably not even going to be a good fit. So now what we'll do is you want it to get about, ideally between like 8 and 15, just so you can like map out the spectrum of the prices per square foot. The bigger that spectrum is, the more accurate your medium is going to be. And that should be something that you want to like explain to either the buyer or the seller. Here's the middle ground, but here's the entire spectrum. So like absolute worst case scenario, these homes are going for like low 30s per square foot. If it's in excellent condition and like Arbor Crossing, they're going for 85. This one's going for 74, 75. So you can go up a little bit, but really on average, your spectrum will sit right at like that 56. So that values this property at 74,000.
So you don't have to remove any of those down there?
Yeah, you do. You do want to sort them though. So that kind of paints you the picture on like the whole one. So now this one sits on a finished basement. What I would do first is weed through, because you have a pretty good amount. You want to kind of cut this down. You have more than 15. There's 2 pages. So if you go to the second page, here's another 3. So it's really 18. So you have 18 comps. You want to get that down to like 8 to 15 good ones, and like 15 would be like really pushing it. If you have like a farm property or one like Brent who has got a lot of acreage, then you might want to do 15 just to kind of pull different ones coming out there. But some of these are pretty close. Like here's number 1 is literally right down the street. So this is 67.40. This one's 67.36. And this only sold for $48 a square foot. So, that's something that I would definitely tell the homeowners or the buyer, hey, the most important is subdivision, and then we can go out a little further. So if we're going to go out a little further, I'll keep all the ones that are in the subdivision, whether they're on a basement or not. But as soon as we go outside of it, like this Billy Creeks, if this is a finished basement, I'll keep it because this has a finished basement. But now I'm going to start eliminating the ones that don't. And now typically when you do eliminate them, start with the last ones that are furthest away. So we'll remove the furthest away that don't have a basement. So these 2, like this one says no. This one says no basement. So we're just going to remove them. That leaves you with 1. It'll keep the page unless it'll have 1 per page. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing. So these two don't. Remove these two. This one doesn't. And then 8 doesn't. Now let's see what that looks like. Price per square. It really didn't change that much. Now you're down to 12. So it's a little bit more reasonable. These are now finished and unfinished. If you want to weed it down a little bit more, you can. But I would stop there because that's a good range of all of these homes are now finished or unfinished. They're all relatively close in terms of square footage, and they're all about average. So these are all relatively close in age. Some of them are newer. Obviously, this is newer. It got higher square footage, or excuse me, price per square foot. So this is information where then you can stop on the Georgia MLS and say, okay, just using the Georgia MLS, which might not have all the solds, you can get about $57 a square foot. So like if the sellers want 140, that's not happening. It needs to be about half that. So you just click the information, save it. Save it as a PDF. You can pull that up later. So that's the Georgia MLS. Now you're going to kind of compare it to the FMLS and use Fusion. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to search for this particular subdivision to see if there's any extra that might have not been mentioned in the Georgia MLS. So we're just going to go to the generic search template. I want to reference the subdivision, which is, and to get the most accurate subdivision, really just got to pull from here. All right, so now this Baker, Florida, this is another thing you want to check for. It says Baker, Florida as the subdivision, yet the actual old listing says it's Knollwood Village. So there's a mistake right there. Someone did that wrong.
Well, that Baker sounded like a name.
Yeah, so don't want to do that. All right, so now if we're using the FMLS, I want to do Douglas County. And we're going to use the subdivision. We're going to use this Knollwood Village. And then we're going to search for all properties. I want to see everything in there. And just click somewhere else. It'll come up with, okay, I got 14 matches. So we'll go to results. It'll pop up this grid. So their property is the only one that expired within the last year. Actually, no, this is any year. So these are all the properties that have sold in that subdivision. So the only one that sold that's even close to what this is listed for is this first one on Laurel Drive. And when you pull it up, what you want to look for is the date. So this one sold, finding agreement date, was actually recently. The proposed closing date is in March. So this is pretty cool. This tells you that this is a relatively recent one that sold high, which is great. But now you want to compare it to the condition of your subject property. So this one's got hardwood floors, different floor plan. And this is something that I would show the client. I'd show them what this looks like. So yeah, I mean, you have something that did sell for 142, which is awesome. But if you look at everything else in here, it's not all that great. So what we want to do is kind of just comb through these guys too. I want to get the, okay. And actually, let's do everything that's sold in the last year. So now we can actually start playing with timing. So closing date, we'll use today. Here, I want to go year back, 12 months back. Cool. All right, now you got 3 properties. So really there's only something that is specific to the subdivision within the last year. So you got this one here. I just want to see the grid. This one and this one. So the only other property that's sold in there in the last year is this one. And this one looks like it's in pretty decent shape relative to what they're trying to ask for it. Nice floors, clean. If you look at the old listing, not bad. It's got a tile shower, that's nice.
That's,
Yeah, that's something that is definitely a selling point. Carpet's
it's
really
like
clean.
that one that was in that house we looked at today, and they redid it. It was an old house, but they like completely redid it.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw it.
And now here's their property. So this is the one, this is expired. So this is an older photo, but I mean, it's decent. Photos are not exactly great, but the home's a little bit more worn. Pictures are not that great. It's a tight bedroom. That's the difference in their shower.
Right.
Completely redone tile shower
How much was
versus
that at?
the other one actually sold for $142, I believe. 135. So this is what I would tell them. And these two didn't pop up in the Georgia MLS. It didn't pop up as like a sold house.
Right.
It was just not there. And then the subdivision was different. So I don't know. I mean, really, I have no idea why that happens. But you just want to watch out for that. So that's what you can kind of play with. Exactly. Why did it happen? That is a great question. So we'll use these two to kind of get some more information when we pull comps for the clients then.